If I can use a broad fork, you can too. Prepare your soil for vegetables without the noise, smell, or cost of a rototiller. Pretty groovy, isn't it? Hi, I'm Debbie from Libraries of Stevens County. The first time I saw a broad fork, I thought it looked like way too much work. I really didn't even want to pick one up. But a friend of mine encouraged me to borrow hers, and I used it in the garden. It took me, I think, 15 minutes before I knew that I needed this monster in my garden arsenal. I discovered a wonderful new old way to prepare my garden soil for vegetables. Unlike the rototiller that I used to use, it doesn't chop up the garden weed roots, such as field bindweed and quackgrass that I have in abundance in my garden. Rather than that, it pulls things up through the soil so that you can pick them up off the top, and it's just so nice that way. Also, it leaves my worm friends alone and doesn't chop them up. I've watched gardeners online that use one of these to turn the soil in an enormous garden. And it works just as perfectly in my small little patch. In the spring, when the soil is moist, is the best time to try your hand with the broad fork. Things go much smoother that way. Be sure that you give everything a deep water if it's dry. Later this season, I'll be experimenting with a small section of sod in my front yard to see if I can make myself a tomato patch using the broad fork. Where to begin? I always start at the edge. I think most people would. And the great thing about the broad fork is that you're moving backward as you use it rather than moving forward, which means you don't have to step on the soil that you've turned and compact it again. It goes like this. And then move back and do it again. If you want to get really, really deep with the broad fork, you can put the tines pretty much straight up and down like this, step on them on the crossbar, and pull that soil up from very, very deep underground. I don't like to do that too much because it also brings up old weed seeds from up to hundreds of years ago. So I pull mine back about 6 to 9 inches and use it at an angle like this. It still pulls up all kinds of roots and prepares my soil for planting. Grip your broad fork handles firmly at all times. There is a chance the handles may twist and smack you in the head. My glasses flew several feet. So it's tempting to use the broad fork like this, but it pulls up an awful lot of soil and uses up a lot of energy. Additionally, if you pick it up for each time that you use it, you're wasting a lot of that energy, which I want to use somewhere else in my garden. Consequently, I use it as an angle like this. It goes faster, and it's just not as hard to do. Once I've forked a bit, I go back and pick up the debris that the fork unearthed. I battle quackgrass and field bindweed every year in my patch, and the long spaghetti rhizomes are difficult to dig with anything. The broad fork lifts the long, ropey roots without too much trouble as long as the soil is moist. Thanks for joining me in the garden. Now you're ready for the fun part, getting those seeds and seedlings in the ground for delicious vegetables later this year. Pretty groovy, isn't it? Look in the description box below for my favorite resources.